Hello, BookTube. It's Friday, and that means Friday Reads, and I have a bunch of books I want to show you that I am digging into tonight. I have a feeling after the day that it's been in the American news cycle that I'm going to shut down everything and start reading very early tonight. It's probably as soon as my writing is done, and just read all night long. So I have a lot of books to show you, starting with a batch of paperbacks. I got a bunch of paperbacks recently of stuff that I either haven't read in one case or that I have read that I'm going to reread. That's what I love to do. I love to get if the book intrigues me or if it's left windows open in my mind and I think, okay, I want to revisit that, then I use the arrival of a paperback as a reminder to do that. But the first one was one that I have not read. It's a paperback original from Picador, a beautifully put together thing that is $17. It's got French flaps and decal edges, beautiful binding, and it's by Jabari Asim, and it's called We Can't Breathe. This is a collection of essays on life for black people in contemporary America. So everything from family life to pop culture representation to, of course, the law. And this, if the author's name is familiar to you, it's because he wrote, a couple of years ago, he wrote a book that was widely talked about. It's been assigned in many schools, called The N-Word. Because in the 21st century, even when you're specifically discussing on cable news programs the subject of brutal racism in America, you're not allowed to actually say that word. People use the neologism, the N-word, now everywhere, religiously. But his book was terrific on that subject. And he's a terrific writer, so I'm kind of expecting to enjoy this. It's not very big. It's less than an hour's read, but it's the one of the paperbacks here that I haven't already read. The next one, or the next 3 or 4 are all paperbacks that I have already read. So they will be faster reads. I'll get them done a lot faster, and I also don't count them towards my year-end reading total. I don't count rereads. So the first one is by Merlin Tuttle, the legendary great Merlin Tuttle, and this is The Secret Lives of Bats. This is a paperback of The Secret Lives of Bats, which I believe I reviewed, but I am not mentioned. There are plenty of people who were bigger fish than I am that reviewed it. And this is he is an absolutely foundational figure in the modern study of bats, and a champion of rescuing their reputation, of making them seem, of presenting them to the public as not monsters, but as what they really are, incredibly beneficial. Mammals who are extremely complicated and extremely interesting, and have no more interest in getting tangled in your hair than you have in getting them tangled in your hair, and all that stuff is just too easy and too cheap. And this book delighted me because there's a lot of autobiography mixed in here. We see the author as a young boy, as a young man. We see his love of bats leading him into temptation in horrible, dangerous places. And I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting that this was going to be more along the lines of a natural history, and there's plenty of that. But there's a lot of Tuttle in here as well, so I'd be overjoyed to read this again, especially since, I'm horrified to say that I don't think I kept my copy of the book. When I brought this home today, I briefly looked around here for the hardcover, and I don't find it. I find it hard to believe. It's probably in this room somewhere, but there's a problem with the book setup in this room that I would kind of like to fix if I can get a couple of muscular teenagers, maybe this weekend. And you can see it. You can see it right here. That bookcase in the corner is going all the way flush to the wall, which means that the 4 inches that are blocked by the Penguin bookcase have books on them that you can't readily see. You can't look at the shelf and see them. You have to walk over there and stick your head in to see them. And I don't like that. I think that if I were to move these bookcases on the wall just a bit and move that at an angle, it would just create a rounded effect, and I would be able to see everything. And I think that will work. It just requires all the books on all the bookshelves have to be moved off and then moved back on again, and that is not anything I'm going to do. That's why God made muscular teenagers. So, but anyway, the next paperback release, I think it comes out really soon. Actually, do we have a date? Yeah, it's out already. This is the paperback of Jonathan Egg's biography of Muhammad Ali. which again I am not blurbed on. I don't think it's covered in blurbs. And I reviewed it, but I reviewed it for I believe the Smart Set, and they just don't have a high enough profile. No one knows. They do some wonderful stuff, long form writing, and of course, I'll use the opportunity to repeat that in the new year, the Smart Set is where I will be running a glorious essay about Conan the Barbarian. I was amazed when they said yes, and I'm not going to question things because they might change their mind. But I wrote a nice long review of this book for them, and I don't think it's no fault of the people at Mariner. I don't think they even know the Smart Set exists. So I don't think I'm blurbed on here at all. But if I remember correctly, I will leave my review down below. But this is tremendous. It's one of the best biographies of last year. So I'm looking forward to rereading it. And then this next one, also a biography, also out in paperback. I think any day now. Any day now, yes. Yeah, any day now. And again, I'm not blurbed. And that it's a little bit more of a sting. I want to make sure that I'm not blurbed. Just in case, let me double check here. No, I'm not blurbed on this one either, even though I reviewed it for the Christian Science Monitor, which is significantly higher profile than the Smart Set. And this is The Accidental President. This is A.J. Bame's biography of Harry Truman, which again, when I opened this today, I looked around for my hardcover, and I don't think I have it anymore. I don't know why that would be a presidential biography, but I really like this. There were parts of it that annoyed me. It was true with any Truman biography, but I really liked it. And it was much heavier on the nuts and bolts of policy than David McCullough's famous doorstop of a book. So well worth, if you're interested in American 20th century biographies, it's well worth having both of them. And then I got the paperback, so I will reread this. And then the next paperback is an illustration of why I'm often grateful to get these things and reread them, because sometimes in the interval between reading them the first time and writing about them the first time, my thoughts keep going back to them, and I realize belatedly, even with nonfiction, that the book was significantly better than I estimated, even if I estimated it highly originally. And that's definitely true in this case. Ian Black, Enemies and Neighbors. This is about Arabs and Jews. This is about Israeli-Palestine. It's a big, thick thing, and it is tremendously good. Just a tremendous narrative history. I loved it when I first read it. I don't know off the top of my head right now what I did with that love. I'm not even sure that I reviewed this for anybody. I'll look around and see, because you never know. I often have to use the same expedient that I recommend to the rest of you, which is when you encounter a book written in the last 30 years, go to Google, type in my first and last name, and then type in the title of the book, just to see. just cover your bases and see. I often have to do that myself, which is kind of shameful. But what can I say? I'm not some Joyce Carol Oates genius who writes one exceedingly well-crafted, steeply brilliant piece every half year, and I don't do that. I have a schedule to keep, and time is fleeting. But anyway, this is out in paperback. I don't know if I have a pub sheet. Oh no, I do. Okay, this is going. I mean, it'll be any day now. Okay, yeah, this comes out in mid-October, and I strongly recommend it. It's going to be $20 for a paperback, but it's something you'll keep on your shelf. So, and you'll reread it and you'll consult it if you're interested in the subject. So that $20 starts to even out. I heartily recommend this book. I'm going to read. It's been on my mind, so I smiled from ear to ear when I opened it, because I do want to reread it. And then we have some stuff that is only one of that's coming up is a reread. You'll be glad to know. First one is something that I got an advance copy of, and it intrigues me, but I never actually did get to it. And now I have a finished copy. This is also a paperback original, if I remember correctly. Yeah, this is a $20 paperback original. This is by Simon Sebag Montefiore, and it's Titans of History. And it is just a series of dozens and dozens of short biographies of the biggest names in history. A very old-fashioned idea, a very Plutarch idea, that I can't wait to see how this author pulls it off. This is a fantastic author, so that's the only reason that I didn't dismiss the idea right away, is just a complete gimmick. I'm so used to 800-page biographies that I find it hard to believe that anyone could say anything interesting about, who have we got here? Ivan the Terrible? Elvis Presley? Einstein? How could I find it hard to believe that even Simon Sebag Montefiore could find something interesting or pithy to say about these people in 6 paragraphs. But we shall see. I will find out this weekend. Then this next one, I've already mentioned on this channel that I try as I might, I cannot bring myself to ignore the gigantic raft of books that are being generated by the current U.S. presidential administration. I can't bring myself to ignore them. Not only because it's the times, I might hate it, but it is still the history I'm living through, but also because these books and the rage around the subject is producing a lot of really good writing from a lot of people. And so I have another one of those. It's fortunately not long. It's an hour's read. It's by Greg Sargent, who writes the Washington Post Plumline column, and it's An Uncivil War. The subtitle is Taking Back Our Democracy in an Age of Trumpian Disinformation and Thunderdome Politics. So the subtitle, I don't know anything about the book, but the subtitle leads me to believe that it will be a hopeful tract, that it will be saying, essentially, this is an aberration. We have the means at our disposal to recover our system. We don't have to be like this. All of which is not true. American politics is changed fundamentally in 2016 and is not ever going back. So books like this, the Trump era books split neatly down the middle of the church. On one side of the aisle, where people think this is the new normal and as good as it's going to get. And then on the other side of the aisle are people who say this is an aberration, we can be better, we are better than this, the pendulum will swing back. So, you know, depending on which side of the aisle you yourself are on, you'll know whether or not books will irritate or please you. I don't know, although we'll see. This guy's writing I really, really like, so we'll see what he does for a book. Unfortunately, some of the huge crop of Trump administration books seem rushed. They bear the hallmarks of being opportunistic cash grabs. Unfortunately, some of them do. Quite a few of them have not, though. More than I would think. So I can always hope. I can always hope. This next one is a novel that I think I got an advance copy of it and just ignored it. And I was sort of quasi-planning on just not getting to the book. But there's been a lot of buzz. A lot of people that I know whose opinions I respect on fiction have started talking about it as they get to it. And that makes me want to read it. It's by Edward Carey, and it's called Little. And it's, let me see here. In 1761, a tiny-bodied, big-hearted girl named Marie is born in a village in Alsace. After the death of her parents, she is apprenticed to a lanky, eccentric wax sculptor known as Dr. Curtius, and whisked off to the roilsome streets of Paris, this great confusion of buildings and people, where they take up with the domineering Widow Picot and Edmund, her quiet, pale son. Together they convert an abandoned monkey house into an exhibition hall for wax heads, and the spectacle becomes a sensation. As word of her artistic talents spread, Marie is called to the Palace of Versailles, where she's entranced by a princess, encounters the king, and attends the accouchement of the imperious Marie Antoinette. Throughout it all, the wax business flourishes, showcasing notables from Jean-Jacques Rousseau to Benjamin Franklin, and harboring disreputables like the feral Jacques Beauvisage and the suspicious André Valentin. But outside the palace walls, Paris is in rebellion. The revolutionary mob is demanding heads off, and at the Wax Museum, heads are what they do. So this is, in other words, Madame Tussauds. This is about the legendary beginnings of the legendary Wax Museum that always struck me. I've been there a few times. It always struck me as very creepy, and in a bad way, not in the way that is supposed to sell tickets, but in one of the times that I went to Madame Tussauds with friends, I was just discomfited at the end. I just wanted not to talk about it. I wanted to go and eat or drink or do something. And my friends were wondering why. Well, it's just a show. It's basically a museum. Why would it be putting you out? And then one friend, after the conversation had gone on for a while, said, "Oh, wait a minute. You can actually smell the wax figurines, can't you? And we can't. They must smell really bad." And I said, "Yeah, they reek. The whole place reeks. It's just awful. It smells like nose wax." That pretty much settled the debate. But I've been hearing a lot of interesting things about this. Not universal praise, but that it's not a novel to miss. And I don't like missing anything. I just, for some reason, nothing about it intrigued me originally, so I was going to sort of pass on it, but I'm not anymore. So I'll read this weekend and report back. And then the last book for now, although keep in mind, a lot of these are rereads. Those are very fast. Some of these were very small. Secret Lives of Bats, We Can't Breathe. These are small things. So this is, again, not a complete list of what I will read, because I'm going to do a block of writing every day for the weekend. But most of the time, day and night, is going to be spent reading. So I will get a lot of this done. But this next one is going to require not just reading, but careful, close study. I have already read it. I have already studied it closely. But I could study it even closer. That's this. This is James Muster's 1,000 Books to Read Before You Die. This is part of the 1,000, fill-in-the-blank series Before You Die books, but this one is bigger, and the finished copy is amazing. It is full of artwork. Full. Black and white and color. Just full of detailed insets and artwork. Just incredible. So even if you're not obsessed with the list itself, the book is, even in 2018, which has been fairly crowded with books celebrating books, even so, if you take a step back, you realize that's what this is, and it's on an epic scale the others can't even approach. So no matter how I do with the list itself, I'm going to enjoy sinking a couple of hours into this thing or more to read. I want to read every word of it. I want to be responsible for it. I think I might even want to review it, although reviewing something like this can be a joyless procedure. And if it's joyless to review, then it will be joyless for you to read the review, and I don't like doing that. So I don't know. I'll have to think about a way to... I don't... On one level, I don't think these things are meant to be reviewed. But if any in this series is, it's the one about books. So I'll mull. But anyway, that is the spine of my Friday reads for today. We have 1,000 Books to Read Before You Die. Have I read them all? Am I free to die? Then Little by Edward Carey, a novel about revolutionary Paris. And then An Uncivil War about the debasement of Trumpism in American politics and the ways to fix it. Titans of History, the great, awful, terrible, and good of human history, each one with a few paragraphs of description. Enemies and Neighbors about Israel and Palestine, a paperback. Accidental President, about Harry Truman. Mostly his time in office, very little biography of him otherwise. Then Ali, a terrific biography from last year. Looking forward to savoring it again. Then The Secret Life of Bats, by one of the greatest bat specialists in the world today. And finally, We Can't Breathe, by the author of The N-Word. So that is my Friday reads, or at least a good, strong beginning of my Friday reads. And as usual, I want to hear what you're doing. The whole of the weekend. In fact, isn't this a long weekend? Isn't there some kind, in America, isn't there some kind of holiday on Monday? I could swear that I remember that there is. No idea what it is. And I don't know that it's one of those ones that's really binding. I think there will be plenty of places that will be open on Monday. But even so, there'll probably be no mail. So it'll probably be a long weekend for me. So there'll be definitely more than just this. but I'm curious to know what you're doing and whether or not you have a nice free weekend, or are you working, or do you have other things that you have to do? Anyway, let's talk in the comments field. So I'll wrap this up, but I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.